Hi there guys, it's Ruyat here from tabletopminis.com, and today we're going to talk to you about Age of Sigmar and some of the rumors and the conversation points on the upcoming game. Firstly, we know that we're going to get a 4-page rulebook, so that's quite shocking to me. I mean, I thought that
I'm really surprised they managed to condense all of the rules from Warhammer Fantasy down to 4 pages.
Well, they haven't condensed it because they've actually cut it, haven't they? They've made it a much
they
smaller
must have
game.
they must have cut out some of the very long-winded rules about movement and positioning. They must have simplified the hand-to-hand combat phase. They must have simplified the magic phase.
Yeah, well, it's not even a quick start guide, is it? It says that that's the only book that comes in
a 4-page rulebook.
Yeah, that is the main rulebook. But when you compare it to sort of Assassinorum, Execution Force, and them other games that have the quick start guides, there's only so much you can get into 4 pages. Like, how are we meant to be having sort of mass scale battles? They said that it's going to be the battles of the past are going to be insignificant compared to what's coming with Age of Sigmar. So how are we meant to have these huge, massive, epic scale battles if we've got 4 pages of rules for them?
Well, perhaps my thoughts on this would be that the Age of Sigmar box that we're getting will be much like the Assassinorum Execution Force, and that'll be a very simple introduction for new players into Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah, definitely.
And it'll be a way to expand the game into the younger community. So it will be a starter game for Warhammer Fantasy. And what we'll see in...
But they've said that it's not going to be anything like Warhammer Fantasy. I mean, the rule set's going to be completely different. So, I mean, all this to hit, to wound, movement, everything that we're used to, I think they're coming away from that.
Well, with a 4-page rulebook, that tells me immediately that the combat system will be very much simplified, much in the way as Assassinorum Execution Force. I'm sure if you've played that game, you must have noticed that the combat very simple. I mean, I have mixed feelings about 4-page rulebook. I look at it and I think that could be a negative side, as it removes some of the tactical sort of process in Warhammer Fantasy. But a part of me also thinks that it might be a very positive thing, because simplifying the rules will make the games go much quicker.
Yeah.
I can see it bringing a new group into the game that perhaps were a bit bamboozled by the old fantasy rules.
For Games Workshop, I mean, their Warhammer sales has obviously been going down in the last 4 years, especially their support for the game is kind of dwindling. And I guess they are trying to revamp it, trying to bring some new players in. And it appears to me, like from the pictures that we've seen anyway, that these, the new game is more kind of 40k-ish in terms of not only round bases, but the models are chunkier. They're basically like fantasy space marines.
Fantasy space marines.
They're calling it Age of Sigmarines on the forums. Yeah, I think they're just trying to bring a new crowd in, but at the same time, they're not. They're not saying old Warhammer players can't play with their old Warhammer armies. So they're just trying to revitalize the game. I think that is a good thing, because I mean, we obviously, if they continue selling a game that's it's not profitable for them, then at the end of the day,
that's not good for them.
It's not good for the company.
It won't be good for us either, because the game will die.
Yeah, exactly. The players get affected at the end of it anyway. So. Yeah, so let's cover what else are they saying? They're saying that new rules for old units and models will come in their box sets. So all of the existing models, I mean, I think the blanket said that all of your existing models can be played in Age of Sigmar.
I am pleased that they've done this, because one of my major concerns was that a lot of the special units out of my Dwarf army would be totally redundant in some sort of new Fantasy 9th edition where the dwarfs no longer existed. But now they've specifically stated that there will be rules for all of the units for your armies, your old armies.
Yeah. So I mean, that's good. I mean, that's good for everybody. Well, they've said that war scrolls are a thing. So each unit box will come with its own rules, and I think these war scrolls are kind of like data slates. And they're also going to be doing things like
I seen one of the comments on a forum that they're comparing it to the sort of stat cards you get with the War Machine packs. and I can see that being kind of a positive. I mean, it's nice that you get all of the rules you need to play with the unit with the box that you buy from the shop.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So I see that as a positive, but I think I will miss the old army books. I'm a big fan of the Games Workshop army books. They're always
well, you
very
got all
high
your
quality.
fluff. You got all the fluff in the army
Yeah.
books as well. So how's it going to work? Because there's obviously they're not going to put fluff onto these little cards that come in the box sets, are they? Of the box of miniatures. So
I can't imagine there'll be much more than a paragraph.
unless, maybe later down the line we do see army books, but. Okay, next thing, base shape and size is irrelevant. So yeah, they said that it doesn't matter whether you play with square, round, or oval bases. So for everybody who was worried about having to rebase their whole armies, they've said specifically that you do not.
I'm
have
actually
to do that.
really happy about base shape being irrelevant
But-
because it opens the door to a whole host of cool basing that you'll be able to do to your miniatures.
True. Yeah.
You'll be able to create like little mini dioramas on their bases because it won't matter because you measure from model to model.
Yeah, within a certain size. So that's one thing they've said that in the game the measurements are going to be from model to model, not base to base. So that's why the base isn't important. But if you've got an existing army that's on square bases and some new miniatures come out on round bases, I can't see many people that aren't going to go to the effort of just rebasing some squares to rounds.
Well,
So-
it depends on how much effort you put into basing the miniatures in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got fancy basing already done on your army,
Yeah, but
perhaps
to have
you
your
wouldn't want
army
to change
on
them.
round and square on the same table, it
The-
just wouldn't look right. Even if you've done the basing nicely, for somebody who's willing to put in the time to make the bases nice in the first place, I personally think that people will end up rebasing.
Well, I think that's great how it's not going to really matter whether you're using square bases, round bases, or perhaps you've made your own custom bases.
Mm.
I think that's a very
Yep.
good thing.
Next thing that they've said, I don't think it came out in the official Games Workshop announcement, but it certainly has been talked about, is that there's not going to be any points associated with your army or your models. So when you go against your opponent, you basically just there wasn't any details. It said something like, maybe you have 2 HQs and 2 troop choices, and 3 fast attack, and then your opponent takes the same, and on these cards that come with the unit types, then I guess that's some way of balancing it. But how that's actually going to work out, I'm not quite sure. Because you're obviously going to have some units more powerful, some troops more powerful than other.
And not
troop
only that,
types,
you'd
so
have the quantity of troops. Say you have one unit of dwarf warriors. How big is that unit?
unless the cards say that.
the cards must have
But
a
then
specific size limit.
Then you're kind of it's restricting your choices. So
I think we've yet to see
yeah.
what that will mean.
Well, Games Workshop haven't actually said that. I don't believe. I think it's just a rumor, so I don't think we'll really dwell on that for long. And they also said something like a 3-unit minimum in your army.
Much like the 40k force organization chart.
Yeah.
Which I think that would be a good thing. I'd like to see something like a 40k force org chart for the fantasy
Yeah.
world.
Well, they said that the possibility of formations later. So I guess they've looked at 40k and it's a model that works. Where you've got formations and bonuses, and it's quite easy to understand.
I think the
It's-
specific formations for each different race in 40k, much like the Dicurian formation, it adds a certain flavor to each army, and I'd love to see that put into some of the fantasy armies. Like you can imagine an empire themed Dicurian formation. What would that involve? Get tanks and artillery. I mean,
Well, I think
I
they're
think
also
that would be
making it
great.
easier for 40k players to jump into this. So I think that this is my personal opinion is that the fantasy player base is not really what Games Workshop's trying to address. They're trying to sell this to new players, so they're making it easy, they're making it small, they're making it simple, and they're also trying to get some of them 40k players who wouldn't go into fantasy. They're trying to sell it as a completely new game system. They're pumping out models that look like fantasy Space Marines. I mean, these models, a lot of 40k people are excited about using these models in their 40k armies. So, they've already got a lot of, sales just on that. So,
and I guess it makes sense for a 40k player will look at this and see things that he recognizes from 40k,
yeah,
such as the
that's what I'm saying,
formations.
yeah.
So.
But one thing I don't like, though, is that although it's a model that works, that using the formation and so on, it's less variety that Games Workshop's giving us, because I mean, they're substituting fantasy, which is completely different from 40k, to what appears to be a simplified version of 40k in the fantasy environment. Which they're selling less products. Like I loved it back in the day when they were selling all the specialist games on top of fantasy and 40k.
Yeah.
And you had a large selection of game types, and
you'd go to your local club and there'd be on one table someone playing fantasy, and then on the other table it'd be someone playing Necromunda, and then on the other table it'd be someone
but
playing Blood Bowl.
the game system being different is that a lot of the fun comes from as well playing something completely different,
something new.
Yeah, so that's one downside I see to that type of model, but I think it will be fun. Personally, I'm really excited to see how this plays out. So what else do we know? We know that the box is going to include a 96-page background, so a fluff book.
Nice book of fluff.
Yeah, we don't get that free on the internet for download, so you need the box set to see this. Also, they've named the Sigmarites. They're called the Stormcast Eternals, the good guys that come in the box, and the Chaos guys are called Khorne Gortite. So whether this is a formation type or whether this is I
can see this being a formation.
It sounds
type.
like a formation to me.
It sounds like the name of a formation.
The Khorne Gortite. Yeah, that does sound like a formation. So there's going to be 47 models. You've probably seen the pictures already, and they're on kind of Terminator-sized bases, like 32mm bases. I guess it's pretty standard. It's comes with range rulers, dice, and transfers, and so on. It's kind of what we were expecting, isn't it? I mean, it's quite a lot of models, I guess, for the price.
Yeah, just like all of the Games Workshop starter boxes, it seems like they're always good value for the models that are in them.
Yeah, I mean, they've said that it's going to be around about $120, so I think about £70 for the box set. So to get 49 miniatures for £70 plus the rules and the background book.
Yeah, it seems pretty good value.
Yeah, it doesn't seem bad. What else has been said? They've said that there's no more army books. I think that was the rumors saying that. Or no, it was actually in the Games Workshop. On the Warhammer app, they said that there's going to be no more army books, I think. But then that goes back to our point, if there's no army books, where do you get the fluff for your armies? Which for a lot of players, I mean, if you're going to pick an army, you really want to know a lot. I mean,
a lot of players pick their army just purely based on fluff reasons.
Yeah, but for sure they're not going to get rid of fluff. It's just how are they going to present it to us if there's no army books? How do we get it? That's a bit of an unknown. And what else? They've said that there's going to be war scrolls, which are like data slates and formations in the future, possibly. What do you think about these formations? So they've said that there's going to be loose, or this is a rumor, they've said that it's going to be loose, tight, or box. So you either got your models completely spread out. Tight is like a little bit closer together, but not base to base.
I can imagine that being very good for fantasy games and gives you more tactical options to do with your units. Mm-hmm. Like say you're moving a unit forward, and you're going to get shot during that turn, so you break it up into loose to move it and give it a save against the incoming fire. And so I think that's a good thing. I think anything that introduces new tactical elements into a tactical game is a good thing.
Well, my thoughts on it are really that probably one of my biggest pet hates about Warhammer is the movement phase. So I hated having your blocks of units that are very sort of cumbersome. You've got to sort of wheel them about, and they kind of, if you're clipping terrain, you've really got to be precise with your movement to get the most out of your game, and it just seems cumbersome to me. Like you place your griffin or your chaff at 45 degrees in front of a unit to block it and all that. I really didn't like that style.
Yeah, the idea that you could redirect 40 Chaos Warriors with one gyrocopter. Yeah, it just seems a bit like that wouldn't happen. They would just ignore the gyrocopter and move to their target.
Yeah.
So I hope we see some way to deal with this sort of cheese.
Well, I mean, I think this does it. I mean, loose, tight, and box. I think that's going to be great for options and eliminating that type of play. And another rumor that's been coming out is that in early August we're going to see a big Warhammer version. So I think it was Darnik, or quite a reputable rumor monger that came out with that, and I think there's a few sources as well. But that leads to the question: if this big Warhammer version is going to come out, what's that going to be? Because Games Workshop have already said that Warhammer is it's the end of Warhammer and it's a new age, the Age of Sigmar, and they've pulled the army book. So it can't be like Age of Sigmar as a standalone box and Warhammer 9th is going to come out. Warhammer 9th isn't going to come out. They've said that.
They've said Warhammer's finished.
Well, pretty much, yeah. So if there's going to be something big that comes in early August, I mean, all I can think of that being is an expansion upon the rules, giving more depth to Age of Sigmar, and
Well, I think what we're going to see
more than 4 pages of rules.
I think what we're going to see between now and August
Yeah.
is we're going to see new releases for Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
And I think Games Workshop will look at the sales for them new releases. And then depending on how they go, that will determine the future of Warhammer Fantasy.
But yeah, but I mean, I don't think they're ever going to kill off Warhammer. Like there's always going to be a market for it. Like, what do you mean determine? You're saying by what? If they don't sell enough box sets for Age of Sigmar, they're just going to kill it, and it's going to be 40.
Yeah,
going to be 40k only.
The cynic in me thinks that might happen.
No, they wouldn't do that, because the company was basically, it prospered on Warhammer. Although support for Warhammer has dwindled,
the company's lost a lot of the important people.
Yeah, that's true.
From back in the day, and
That's
it's run by the chief financial officer now. So
Well,
every decision they
yeah.
take is based on a business perspective.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, it's always been like
No.
that.
It hasn't.
They had the
always been.
people that were more, maybe less sort of.
Yeah, but
people
now-
with less business acumen in them. But
Every
they've always been a
decision they'll
business-
make will be based on business logic.
No, but that's always been the case. Any business to exist has to be based on business logic, which is they need money. Even 20 years ago, when they were producing this stuff, the guys who were playing the battle reports and White Dwarf and stuff, they all were getting paid. Like as a business, they had to. You always got to stay in business. You have to be business oriented.
I hope you're right about this. I hope you're right about
money
this.
grab,
but
money grab, money grab. But
I
in
can't
actual
help
fact,
worrying
Games
about-
Workshop has to make money to exist. And the more money they make, the better products they can make, the more people they can employ, the more money they can spend on their games and miniatures. Although, obviously, they want to maximize their profit to deliver dividends to shareholders and so on. They still, as a business, if they make money, as an end user, we end up with a better experience. So, although they put prices up and, there's a balance. If they put prices up too much, they lose customers, then they lose money. So they put prices, it's a balance. So they they sell in at the sort of maximum that they think people will pay without losing customers. It's still growing their business. So, I don't know. I don't see them killing Warhammer.
Well, what I hope
at
to
this
see
point in time, they've said it's the end of Warhammer. So I mean, they are taking drastic action. So, and that's pretty much it. Another thing they've said is that there's going to be one free Sigmarite in the White Dwarf. So. That's pretty cool. And that's pretty much the rumor roundup. So, you got anything else?
I don't think I covered everything.
Yeah. So, me for one, I'm really excited about Age of Sigmar. I'm really excited that they're putting the rules up on Saturday, so we get it a week before the box set. So,
And that's the rules for our old units as well.
apparently, so yeah. So we can actually play Age of Sigmar on Saturday then.
Mm.
So expect us to be putting up a battle report on Saturday with the new rules, or a review video at least, and maybe the battle report if we can. But yeah, that should be really cool. Playing Age of Sigmar on Saturday. 4-page rulebook. It shouldn't take us very long to actually get into it. In fact, can we even do a video on 4 pages of rules? Well, we'll see. So, thanks for watching, guys, and let us know what you think about the Age of Sigmar and the rumors that have been put out there. And if you like our videos,
Let us know what you hope to see, and then let us know what you think we'll see.
okay. So if you like what you see, please like and subscribe below, or check us out on tabletopminis.com. So thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
See you next time.